Hello. So welcome to a gaming series I'll be doing for the next couple of months, hopefully forever. Who knows if I stick with this. This is me, for example. But anyway, so a couple of months ago, around Christmas, I bought myself a Nintendo Switch. And while I was on the eShop, I noticed there's a load of old games I wanted to play. And I was talking to my friend Sam about it. Shout out to Sam, he's the one who gave me an idea for this whole series anyway. And he goes, why don't you play some of those old fighting games or beat 'em ups or whatever, and do a series on YouTube about it. So I thought, you know what? I've got a video editing software, might as well make use of it. So I decided that I'm going to do it. So the first game I decided to download was King of Fighters. Actually, that's wrong. It actually was Fatal Fury 1, which is a part of the King of Fighters series, which is set in a weird timeline, which one day I hope to try and explain. Hopefully it works, hopefully it doesn't. It's weird, but I've always wanted to play them. But back in the day, obviously, it was a hard game to get. So now it's on you can get on the Nintendo eShop, you can get on the Sony PlayStation Store, Xbox Store. So decided, hey, it's only £6, I'm gonna buy it. So I bought it, and now I'm going to review it and give my overall thoughts of the game, but with a brief, weird introduction at first. So hopefully you enjoy that and you like it. So before we can get on the game, here's a little brief history of the making of the game and how I was able to play the original version in 1993. So the year is 1991. I was 6 years old. Don't really remember much as I was 6 years old. I remember wearing my Ninja Mutant Turtles hat to school, which my mum made with an iron-on patch, but anyway. And back then, KFC was called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was released, and that Christmas, I'm pretty sure me and my brother got all the Turtle toys each. Shout out to my parents for actually doing that. That's pretty awesome. TMNT for life. Awesome films also came out that year, such as Terminator 2, Judgment Day, one of the best films ever made, Hook, The Addams Family, Boys in the Hood, Silence of the Lamb, Point Break, Double Impact, and American Tail.
Fievel goes west?
Yes, sir. Love that little mouse. His journey, the story of America.
I could not agree more.
Fievel?
Papa!
Fievel?
Papa!
Fievel!
Papa!
Fievel!
Well, backdraft, and that's right, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Remember, that was one of the first films I saw in a cinema without my parents. My cousin, I went there my place and my cousin. Anyway, 1991 was such a sick year. I remember that year, so I don't actually remember much of that year because I was very young, but anyway. And also, lots of good songs came out that year. A lot of them I don't remember. Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Banger, by the way. Enter the Sandman by Metallica. OG Original Gangster by my hero, Ice-T. And getting ready to that song, Get Ready for This, sorry, by the Dutch Hits Machine, 2 Unlimited. William Smith and Jazzy Jeffrey was telling us how summertime was going to be great, and there was a lot of songs about sex back then, like Salt and Pepper, Let's Talk About Sex, I Want to Sex You Up by Calling Me Bad, and Touch Myself by Divine. Yeah. Being 6 years old, a lot of those songs went over my head, and listening to them now, I'm like, oh wow, I was actually singing the songs out loud when I was that age. But anyway, also, in 1991 was the year that the greatest hedgehog who has ever graced our world was born. That's right, that was the year that Sonic 1 came out. Remember seeing that in a shop on the Mega Drive, and I was like, oh wow, that looks amazing. And another awesome game that came out the year was Streets of Rage 1. Again, awesome game. And The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Yeah, never played that one, to be fair. Never much of a Zelda guy until Ocarina of Time. And also there's lots of weird films that come out and games, movie caching games, like Darkman. See, no one remembers Darkman, but yeah, he had a game, which is super confusing. The Simpsons, Bart versus Space Aliens, which is a super hard game. I had that on my Nintendo Entertainment System, or the NES, as people want to call it. And And the rival to this game that we're reviewing, Street Fighter 2 World's Warriors. Not a lot of people know this, but Takahashi Mishiyama, the creator of Fatal Fury, actually helped to create Street Fighter back in 1987. But less than a year after Capcom released Street Fighter, Takahashi moved to SNK. At the time, SNK wanted to start a new mainstream franchise, so Takahashi wanted to carry on with the Street Fighter franchise, but obviously he couldn't use Street Fighter as Capcom owned it. So he decided to make Fatal Fury, a game which is heavily influenced by the late 80s and early 90s action films. So he replaced Ken and Ryu with Terry Bogard, aka the Hungry Wolf, and his brother Andy, the guy who's just there to be there, and their good friend, kickboxer Joe Higashi. Takahashi also wanted to make the game more story-focused, unlike other fighting games at the time. So let's talk about the plot of the game before we talk about the actual gameplay. And a quite exciting storyline, if I'm pretty honest. So here's the plot of Fatal Fury. Many moons ago, Terry and Andy were just nothing but orphans on the mean streets of Southtown until a very cool good dude called Jeff Bogart took them in and taught them martial arts. He was loved around the city. Everyone just thought he was a very dope guy. Until one day, a super badass dude named Geese Howard murdered Terry in cold blood on the streets in front of Andy and Terry. So the brothers decided to go their separate ways and learn some more martial arts skills to avenge their father. Terry went off and became known as the Hungry Wolf, adopting a super sick red waistcoat and a badass red hat. And Andy went off to Japan to learn some martial arts. That's it. While the Bogart brothers are off on their Batman-like quests to get stronger, Southtown became worse and literally became a ghetto. And Geese Howard controlled the city, and as all evil millionaires do, he built himself a large skyscraper in the middle of Southtown. Fast forward 10 years later, the Bogart brothers have returned to Southtown with their friend Joe Higashi in order to compete in a tournament named the King of Fighters, which was held by the evil son of a gun Geese Howard. And that title kind of foreshadows the future games and the King of Fighters series. But anyway, so the trio went on to enter the tournament to avenge Jeff Bogart. But before our heroic trio can fight King Geese Howard, they have to fight a number of characters along the way, such as Michael Max, a former boxer who left boxing because he thought boxing had too many rules to protect fighters and he wanted to take part in something much more dangerous. So he entered the King of Fighters tournament to test his skills. He also is a blatant rip-off of Mike Tyson. Then you got Richard Myers. Richard is originally from Brazil and is a master of the Brazilian martial arts capoeira. By day, he manages a restaurant in Southtown, but enters the tournament to show capoeira's style to the world. And according to Wikipedia, Richard is the first character to use capoeira in a fighting game. Didn't know that. Then you got Tong Fu Ro, an old man who developed his own fighting style, and in the past, he previously trained the late Jeffrey Bogart and Geese Howard. After Jeff's death, he took in Andy and Terry and raised them for a while. Tong entered the tournament to also seek revenge for the death of Jeff. Tong can also transform into a super jacked old dude after hitting him a few times. It's kind of like Master Roshi from Dragon Ball, if you watched that. And he's super annoying, and he just spams his spin attack, and it's so annoying. It just want to make me smash my controller. Then you've got Duck King, who is a street dancer who can also fight. He once challenged Terry to a fight and lost, so he set off the train and ended the tournament again so he can get his win back against Terry. He can do a move, like a cannonball move, that's sort of a rip-off or inspired Blanca's cannonball move in Street Fighter 2. Who knows? And got Wan Jan, a former Muay Thai kickboxing champion who lost to Joe in the past, and it caused him to lose his title, and he turned into a more reckless and more dangerous fighter. Because of that, he was banned from fighting, which caught the eye of King Geese Howard, and Hual became one of Geese's trusty bodyguards. During the fight with Rao, after a few hits, someone in the crowd would throw him like a can of special drink, quote unquote, and he turns red and gets really strong, but he gets gassed off if you hit him a few more times. It's really annoying. He has also created a dragon kick to combat and mock Joe's tiger kick. This is where I would make a wrestling reference, but don't judge me, I like wrestling. Then next you got Raiden. Raiden. Where do I begin? Raiden is a former wrestler who was a super babyface until his tag team partner betrayed him in a match and turned him into somewhat crazy. And then he went full heel, not being satisfied with venting his frustrations out in the ring. He left wrestling, entered the tournament, and became one of Geese's henchmen. I hate fighting him. His moves are broken. Like, he just glitches through your moves and can grab you, and it's super annoying. And he spams his choky as he spams it, and he's got vapor breath. He's just the worst character. I hate him. But on a good note, he's actually based on the legendary late great wrestler Vader, R.I.P. Then you got possibly the worst character in the whole game, Billy Kane. Billy Kane is an orphan from good old England, probably London town. Who was taken in by Geese, and now he lives in Southtown with Geese. Billy became Geese's right-hand man and is currently the champion of the King of Fighters tournament. Billy's kind of reminds me of the actor slash singer Luke Goss, who played the bad guy in Blade 2. Just like Raiden, I can't overestimate how much I hate Billy. It is nearly impossible to beat him. Like, he fights with a staff, and if he throws a staff and you block it, it will land on the floor. So he will like cower and you can't hit him until he gets his stupid staff back, and he just spams that. It's just dumb. I hate him. I just gonna stop talking about him because he made me rage quit the game so many times. So I'm gonna stop talking about him. Oh God, screw you, Billy, you asshole.
Now we have the big bad, the king of Southtown, the master of the slipback hairstyle, Geese Howard. Geese was a poor boy from Southtown who grew up to become the CEO of Howard Connections. Howard's Connections is really a front for all the evil doings he does, like drug trafficking, underground fight clubs, etc. And in my opinion, Geese is one of my favourite characters in all fighting game history. Not just gameplays wise, because he's quite actually a hard character to play with, but story wise, he is such a badass and he's just amazing. So, just like most fighting games, you must fight your way up a ladder of characters to reach the boss. But in this game, between each fight, you got a cutscene with Geese that moves the story along, which is pretty cool in my opinion. You don't really get that in like Street Fighter until the later series. And with the cutscenes, Geese gets more enraged and sends these heavy hitters after you, such as Raiden and Billy Goddamn Kane, who I hate, as we've previously been through. So you got to fight through red drinking kickboxing dude, the Vader wannabe, and then Billy. Once you finally beat them, you are presented with a trophy and ladies in bikinis, and they're all around you like, oh yay, you're so great, you've done it, yay. But then suddenly lights go out and you're kidnapped by some thugs. Everything fades to black. Then you wake up, you find Geese Howard, and his thugs are taken to his building in the middle of Southtown, where he tells you his plan and berates you and for taking revenge for your father. Then he gets very cocky and challenges you to a fight that he possibly can't lose. So you have a fight against the bringer of death, Geese. It's an epic battle on top of his building with a whole Southtown in the background. It's a hard fought battle. And then you beat Geese, which is very hard to do, not gonna lie. I actually haven't done it because the game is super hard, but we'll get back into that later. And you fly kick him off his Japanese themed garden to the street below, and the screen's fades to black and a message comes up saying Geese dies 4 hours later in hospital from the fall, which is super dark. And I was like, oh wow, that's very dark, but does he really die? So now let's talk about the gameplay. Fatal Fury has a 3-button layout. 1 button is for punch, 1 button is for kick, and 1 button is for throws. So if you're playing on the new consoles, the 4th button doesn't work, doesn't do anything. You use the left analog stick or D-pad to move your character. Unlike most 2D fighting games, the stages on Fatal Fury allow you to jump high and low between the stages to dodge attacks. For example, if someone's doing a Hadouken, even though Hadouken ain't in the game, you can jump to the background to miss that and then jump back. So yeah, a lot of crosses. By pressing the throw button when you jump, that's how you do that. Each character has 3 to 4 special moves, which you need to input a sequence of directions followed by a punch or kick. For example, Terry's attacks like Power Wave, which is a shockwave that travels across the screen. Burn Knuckles, where he flies forward at you with a straight fist. And Rising Tackle, which is a corkscrew kick that goes upwards. Yeah, I know when you hear tackle, you think like a shoulder tackle or something with your upper body or your arms, but no, he does it with his feet. But it is what it is. To execute the special moves are slightly harder than in Street Fighter, but SNK is known for being strict with control. So as a kid, I always found this quite annoying, but when I got older, I started to appreciate it a lot more. But playing on the Switch in handheld mode is rather hard to pull off on your special moves on a Joy-Con, because you don't really have the grip. But I'm pretty sure if you're using a Pro Controller or you're playing it on the PS4 or Xbox, you should be fine. Be fair, as a controller's better for your hands. One of my only problems with Fate Fury is the difficulty curve. The game is super hard, and I'm a veteran of fighting games, but I'm not a pro fighter game player, but semi-decent. But this game is brutal, and I want to blame it on me playing it on the Switch and the controls, but I do remember playing it back in the day on the Mega Drive. It was super hard. I beat the first 3 people kind of easy, but once I got to the old man, it took me a good few tries to beat him. Even with the sub bosses, that was a nightmare. Like I said before, Raiden is so glitchy. It took me about 20 minutes to beat him. And even Billy Kane, they're just such scammy characters. It's just so stupid. They glitch through your attacks, and it's just so annoying. But well, I have to say, Billy Kane is Fatal Fury's equivalent of Shao Kahn or Shinnok for just spamming moves. It's ridiculous. But now I've got to be honest with you. As of recording this video, I actually haven't beat Geese. I haven't even got to Geese. Like I said before, I rage quit playing against Billy and end up watching the ending on YouTube. So yeah, don't judge me, please. It was either that or I smashed my Switch, and I don't want to smash my Switch because I paid quite a lot of money for it, and they're hard to get right now. So let's talk about the graphics of Fatal Fury. Fatal Fury uses a 16-bit animated sprite, which most games at the time were using, but SNK have always been known for being highly detailed with their sprites in all their games. For example, Samurai Showdown and Metal Slug and Fatal Fury. I personally think 2D sprites in Fatal Fury are much better than the 2D sprites in Street Fighter 2. To me, they look more detailed and brighter, unlike Street Fighter. But some of the animations for the special moves do not look that good as the ones in Street Fighter 2. Like, Terry's Power Wave looks slightly glitchy compared to Ryu's Hadouken from Street Fighter 2. But the stages in Fatal Fury look a lot more beautiful and more alive compared to the stages in Street Fighter 2. Some of the stages have crowds in the background, and some stages you can even interact with in a certain degree, like in Billy's stage where you could be hit into the crowd and they'll throw you back into the fight, or in Duck King's stage where you can see people in the background dancing, which is pretty cool and unique for fighting games back then. The music in Fatal Fury is pretty limited due to being a 16-bit game. It's better than 8-bit songs, but the background music doesn't stick out like the background music in Street Fighter 2. For example, I always can picture Ken and Guile's stages in my head, the theme songs like but anyway, back to what I was saying. But nothing really sticks out in Fatal Fury, except for like the little bits with Geese's little cutscenes. There, the music in that sticks out, but I couldn't recite off the top of my head. If I heard it, I know it. So yeah. Well, again, like we said, this is due to the limitations of 16-bit sound at the time. So yeah, so And the home console versions were scaled down, obviously, compared to the arcade, which I'm pretty sure would have had better music. But the power of the hardware back then, you had to do what you could with what you had, which is a pretty bummer. And none of the bonus stages stuck out for me in this game either. Like Street Fighter got beat up the car and the barrels, but in Fatal Fury it's just arcade games where you gotta arm wrestle some guy that looks like Hulk Hogan. So that's kind of lets Fatal Fury down on that aspect. Overall thoughts on Fatal Fury. I'm so happy that I've actually gone back and played Fatal Fury without rose tinted glasses, as we all know and like to label things as perfect when we were kids, and we have fond memories thinking, oh yeah, it's great to remember, but most of the time that's not the case. And lucky for me, I played Fatal Fury like twice when I was younger at my uncle's house on the Mega Drive, so I don't really have any lasting memories of the game, so I can go back and give my honest opinion on the game. And I honestly think it's a very good fighting game. I like the character designs of most of the characters. One or two maybe slight rip-off of famous people or fighters from other franchises. Mike Tyson, Vader, Sagat, and Master Roshi from Dragon Ball. But the ones that are original ideas look pretty good, like my boy Terry, who just looks so iconic with his hat, and he's gone on to be SNK's mascot in a way, you know, with his iconic red baseball cap and his red waistcoat, which I want. A costume I one day like dream to have and wear and be called that weirdo at Comic Cons and stuff. And I'll wear it when it's not even Halloween. That's how much I want that. But anyway, I will stop talking about my weird love for Terry. So yeah, back to the characters. They have interesting backstories, not generic like, hey, just want to join this tournament because, like in most games, i.e. Virtual Fighter. So yeah, there's lots of world building in this game. Because another game we'll touch on, which is a prequel to this later on. One of my main problems with the game though is maybe the difficulty spike is just, I don't know if it's just me, it's just very hard. I went back and like put the difficulty level to 2 on my photo to go, and I still found it really hard. I don't know if that's just the controller or what, or newer fighting games have become more simple, so I'm become lazy and found it a lot harder, and it just took me out of the game sometimes. But besides that, really good. Well, hopefully, you know, when I get onto Fatal Fury 2, they've sorted out these minor problems and overall becomes a better experience. So, if you are into old school fighting games that focus more on technique and not just random button mashing games, then I would highly recommend Fatal Fury. I wouldn't recommend this game if you're just a casual fighting game fan, because you'll be put off by the difficulty and the control system. But you need to put in a lot of hours to sort of master this game as well. But if you got the time, I'll say invest it in Fatal Fury. It'll be worth picking up, and it's pretty cheap at this moment, so you can pick up for like under £7. You can't go wrong with that, if I'm honest. So yeah, I've looked. If you want it on the Switch, it's $6.29 at the moment. On the Xbox, it's £6.39, and on the PSN store it's £5.79. So yeah, if you're a fighting game buff, I'll say go and buy it and try it out. What have you got to lose? And it'd be good to add your collection. And this is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching the video and take your time out to watch it. If you get any suggestions in the future, don't hesitate to drop me a comment in below or even a DM. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, which the links will be on below. And I'd like to dedicate this to my friend Sam, who taught me into doing this, and I'm quite glad he did. Got to play around with Adobe and stuff, so hopefully next video will be a lot shorter. This is my first video, so there'll be a lot of hiccups and stuff, but it's a little tester. But yeah, thank you all very much, and I'll catch you in the next video, which will be Art of Fighting, the prequel to Fatal Fury. Take care and love each other. Bye.